Friday morning in St. Kitts and Nevis. I feel very selfish saying this when you look at what is happening around the world and just in our neighborhood. St. Vincent is having some serious issues. The world is facing COVID-19 pandemic. Everybody's suffering as far as I'm concerned. Every time you turn on the news, it's such bad news. Okay, the Duke is dead. I think that was one of the easiest way out. The world is suffering, and that for me is one of the power chip button. When things go, everything is going wrong, just press that and it's relief. So that is not a bad thing. After all, I've come to realize that. My name is Sandra. It's about that time, the time for Your Views. Your Views is a program that is aired on Win FM around this time, 10 o'clock, every Friday from 10 until 11. It's a program where you have the opportunity to air your views. Sometimes we have a calling program, and most of the time we have people who are giving you information that is absolutely necessary. This morning, it's no difference. I have with me some information, and I'm not going to relay it. I'm talking to the historian who has all of his, and the statistician who have all of his stats together, and for us to recognize the severity of the situation and how stupid we are becoming. I said that, yes, I did. The reality is real, if I may say so. I remember when I was going to school, Mr. Carter gave me 1,000 lines to write, and he said, procrastination is the thief of time. Number one, the word was a big word. Two, I wasn't one who would look up meanings of word. And so I just wrote it in 1,000 words. It was that all. The punishment would have been greater. My parents would have known that I was misbehaving in school, so I had to sneakily go and write those lines. But reality has come, seriously hit home, realizing when you start putting off things, it is detrimental. You lose time, you lose opportunities, and we can't regain them. Sometimes, like I said, it can be detrimental to us when we procrastinate, and this is a situation that we are faced with. Good morning, darling. Everybody knows him. He is the host for Voices from Tuesday to Friday, is it? Or Monday to?
It's
Monday to?
Wednesday and Friday.
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. He's newy to Win FM or radio, and he always have information, the real information, because he really go and he looks up all the statistics. We are having some problems right now in St. Vincent and Grenadine. Our neighbors are in crisis. What can we do? What has happened and when it started? Can you let us know, dear?
Yes, good morning, Sandra, and thank you so much for having me on your program. I'm here to bring an update on the developments in St. Vincent and the Grenadines with the La Sofia volcano, and as well to empathize with the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and understand that they are indeed going through a difficult time as they are also facing the challenges posed with the COVID-19 pandemic. And so it's just for me to bring an update to the listeners of WinFM 98.9. I am Devon Cornelius from the newsroom here at WinFM, so I am no stranger to the radio, but I think this is my first time on your show.
I've always wanted to have
Sandra.
Yeah.
So the explosive eruptions have started at the La Sofia volcano in St. Vincent. The University of the West Indies Seismic Research Center said the first one was at 8:41 a.m. today. This is a culmination of the seismic activity that began on April 8th. The eruption is ongoing, and more information will be shared as things progress, it said, in a brief statement. Now, yesterday on Thursday, April 8th, the National Emergency Management Organization, that is NEMO, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, has confirmed that the La Sofia volcano has moved into an explosive state. The agency has reported plumes up to 8 kilometers. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves issued the evacuation order for an area that is home to some 20,000 people. Before I continue, though, Sandra, I want to bring up a clip from the Prime Minister, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, where he issued the evacuation order and provided some information for the people and residents of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So I'll just have the technician bring up that clip. Is the clip ready? Okay.
I hereby order as follows. 1. The evacuation of all premises in the areas designated as the red zone on the northeast and northwest of St. Vincent, and the evacuation of the area itself. So an evacuation of the premises in the red zone on the northeast and the northwest, and evacuation of the areas themselves. And 2, the exclusion of persons, vessels, or vehicles from such premises and areas, save and except for the purpose of effecting the said evacuation. This order would be published tomorrow, but it has effect immediately, because under Section 40, an order made by me as the Minister and Prime Minister to this effect is immediate. So there is now in the country an evacuation order. All arrangements have now kick-started and the process begins. I want to urge all our people to be calm, do not panic, be disciplined, be orderly. The heads of all the subcommittees in NEMO were at the meeting of the National Emergency Council, and they know what they have to do. It is a question of effecting the plans. And I would let the director of NEMO say a few words in that regard. I report, however, additional to what I stated earlier today when I briefed the press, to indicate that Royal Caribbean is offering 3 vessels, 3 ships. 2 of them will come by tomorrow morning. A 3rd one will come subsequently. And Carnival Cruise Line, through the Minister of Tourism, has indicated that by tomorrow evening there will be 2 cruise ships from Carnival. I should point out that the cruise ships of Royal Caribbean will be first used to transport the persons from St. Vincent and the Grenadines who are to be evacuated to other islands, other countries in the region who have offered temporary hospitality, namely St. Lucia, Grenada, Barbados, Antigua. The arrangements have not been made in respect of for the BVI, the British Virgin Islands, but that offer is on hand. I have spoken to the Minister of National Security in the government of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Stuart Young, speaking on behalf of Prime Minister Rowley, and they have offered support in every material particular, and so too the President of the Republic of Guyana. The Premier of Montserrat has sent his support and regards, and I've been advised by Camilo that the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis has been trying to get me, but I was in the meeting at Nemo. He's now at a press briefing, and I will speak to him shortly.
Okay, that was the Prime Minister of St. Vincent talking about the demise of St. Vincentians and wondering how we are in the region, how we can help. I mean, there's absolutely nothing that we can do at this point in time. They're in evacuation mode. Devon, can you give us some more information of where the position they're in now and what is going to happen more sooner than later?
Sure. So as we speak, Sandra, there are areas in SVG that are being evacuated. Of course, the area where, which is closer to La Soufrière, and it has a population of close to 20,000 people. And so they are being evacuated. I saw some cruise ships heading to SVG last night to evacuate women and children first. And it was, looking at the live videos, it was heartbreaking. I must say, it was heartbreaking.
How many passengers at one time can this cruise ship carry?
I don't even know.
And 20,000 people?
But it was a lot of chaos and confusion and all of that, you know. So it had me thinking, what is this? What is this? But if I may continue, CARICOM issued a statement as well. It says the Caribbean Community CARICOM has mobilized to support SVG as it faces the possibility of an imminent eruption of La Soufrière. Please note that this was issued before the eruption. Following an evacuation order of the immediate area around the volcano by the Prime Minister, CARICOM member states have offered support to house evacuees from the affected area. SEDIMA has activated its regional support operation, including the deployment of a specialist to the island, to the country. The agency is providing technical assistance to the NEMO with evacuation and logistics planning. The community stands with the government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in these very difficult times. As I said, Sandra, it's the eruption of La Soufrière, and it is now they're grappling with the effects of COVID-19. If I may continue quickly with some data, the La Soufrière is the highest peak in St. Vincent, and it erupted in 1718, 1812, 1902, and 1979. So it has a history of being active. And so what I would say is that this should not really come at a surprise to the government and people of SVG and, of course, the Caribbean community. So we are waiting to see what other steps will be taken in SVG. And, of course, other countries have offered their support and assistance.
You know, I'm always the bad one, and the devil's advocate. People think that I play, but no, it's the reality of the whole thing. Devon, I just hope that you stay with me for the duration because there's so many information, people's view. We can open the lines and have other people's view. But I know people are going to say about me, you're heartless. It's not that. I think, and I said before, procrastination is the thief of time. They had ample time. Let me tell you what I would have done if I was the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They have ample time. They knew. You see what the history says. Statistics shows in 1718 it is, 1812, 1902, and 1979. And we knew for a fact because they've had activities there and scientists were in there and they were advised on what was going to happen. And if it would have happened before, we know the chances of it happening again. St. Vincent is a big place. We have the Grenadines Islands. We have the safe zone. If you look at the small area, 20,000 people that is affected, you look at the other areas, and we always look about evacuating people. It is not the whole of St. Vincent that is having the issues. It is part of St. Vincent that having the issues. You are displacing people. You're taking people, and we are asking for Caribbean and the CARICOM countries to assist. People can be replaced. I mean, you can move from one area to another area in St. Vincent, but this is poor planning for me on behalf of the people who are in charge. People the dead of night, you have children, you have old people shuffling like slaves in coffers. And it upset me because I think that this should have been done a long time ago. You know it's going to happen. You're going to wait. People are too reactive and not proactive. You're going to wait until the moment has arisen for you to start to rush people. 20,000 people, a boat can take 1,500 people. How many trips that boat is going to make? You don't know when the mountain is going to blow. So people who don't understand what volcanic eruptions are, you don't know when it's going to blow, you don't know. So people are risking their lives so that they can get people out. This should not have happened now. This should have happened since, okay, then you want to wait till December when you started to have these excess seismic activities there. From December, you should have started to evacuate. You're waiting. Government uses the opportunity when it's in the dead of the moment to say, okay, we're going to pass laws. People have to move. Those of you who don't want to move, then there are consequences, because I am not going to risk my life to save anybody who would have decided earlier o'clock that they don't want to move, and when they realize the nature or the severity of the problem, then they want you to come in and save. Heartless you may call me, but my responsibility is to me. My life is mine, and I'm responsible for saving mine, and I'm not going to jeopardize my life. I don't want to be a hero or a shero or a heroine or whatever you call it. I don't want to be that, because at the end of the day, people have to take that responsibility.
Right.
We have another issue that is coming. COVID is a big issue. You're taking people out of St. Vincent. There's some people who are not vaccinated yet. People who would have taken the opportunity to do so, like I always said, for those of us who have decided to wait, and because we have issues with the vaccination, we understand that there are consequences, and hope that when the time comes that we're willing to suffer the consequences based on our decisions. Now, people have taken the time to be vaccinated. Now, in the rush of time, I have to open my doors to take in people. We don't know whether or not they're infected with the virus. And people are going to say again, Sandra, you're heartless. Call me what I am. My heart beats 72 times per minute, and I know it's doing a good job. But at the end of the day, the responsibility is up to you. For those of you who want to take on that attitude of, I am going to wait, then you take on the attitude when the consequences come, that, these are the consequences that we have to suffer. So it's not just the volcano in St. Vincent, it's the problem that we have with the COVID situation. What are they going to do? If you were the prime minister of, because maybe later on you might want to be a prime minister, this is a good time this is a good opportunity to start practicing, because we are seeing it now. We've seen it in Mousrat, where people had to run to as far as England. We are asking a lot. Everybody's affected. Each country is affected by COVID-19. Our economy is taking a hit. Then we have to take on the responsibility of prime ministers, and I don't know him, he doesn't know me, who have been incompetent for such a long time. I'm using words that I know I will suffer the consequences for later, but I don't run for office, and people have a right to say whatever they want to say. But people who have been irresponsible for a prolonged period of time, and going to use the excuse of a volcanic eruption to put their incompetence on as somebody else's responsibility, I have a problem with that.
Sandra, while I empathize with the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and understand that they are indeed in a difficult time, one would understand, or if people were doing their research, you would understand that this did not just happen.
One time.
Right.
Right.
So we did not just get up on Monday morning and find out that the Lacerfield volcano is going to erupt
in a few minutes.
A few hours. Activity began in December of last year. So let us be frank there. Activity began in December of last year. It is my humble suggestion, or I am of the humble opinion, that an evacuation order should have been issued earlier.
Or provisions for that, because you have, like I said, you have areas where people can or could have been.
Right.
They could have made preparations for them to come, temporary houses. Then you reach out to CARICOM governments and people to ask you for that kind of help.
Right, because it's not the entire country that is
Of
being
course
affected
not.
by the eruption.
Small area.
So let me put that on the record, because I have seen the
map,
which shows the areas that will be affected, and it's just not even half of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Of St. Vincent.
St. Vincent.
St. Vincent.
You have the Grenadines Islands
Right.
still there. So
So please understand that the entire country is not being affected by the eruption of the volcano. Some people have the notion that it's the entire country and everybody has to leave. No. And so what I'm saying, what is happening now with people scattering and running and the chaos?
could have been avoided. Seriously avoided. I look at it last night and I felt sick to my stomach because at the end of the day I'm saying, why are you waiting until now? You have hours to get out and you had months to do so. Why are you waiting until now that you're making provisions to bring cruise ships here? You're making provisions because they said it before, there's an area where you have to cross a river in order to get to the safe zone. Why weren't these people forced then to get out? If by chance you don't want to get out then they'll have been there all right now. So because I wasn't going to risk my life to
Right.
get them out. And I'm serious. People can say what they want, but we are becoming so much more of an irresponsible set of people, waiting and depending on somebody always to help us to do something. Our lives are our responsibilities. Our family lives depends on us as individuals. We can always wait for somebody to help. You saw what is going to happen. Get out.
Right, right.
You have families out there. That's another burden to them. People who are not working now, I have to take you in. I don't have a problem with that because we can share. But give me time to know that you're going to come. You're going to go to some houses and homes now that have been seriously affected by COVID-19. And this is lack of planning.
Right.
Serious lack
You
of
know,
planning.
Sandra, while there will be other countries that will be accepting people from the SVG, we have to take into consideration the current situation of COVID-19. And so you're accepting people, and the issue will be, well, I don't know if Sandra has COVID. So I'm here in St. Kitts and Nevis. I've been tested. I have no COVID. But I'm going to accept Sandra, her mother, her father, her sister, her brother, the whole family to just come with me just like that. So this is something that we have to take into consideration.
And what the government here do? Let me ask you a question. What does the government here do? You have people coming in from a desperate situation. Are you just going to allow them to come in? Are they going to be quarantined? Who is going to pay for that? These are the questions that you ask because it is a damn if you do, damn if you don't
Right,
situation.
right.
So it's a lot of things that you now have to take into consideration. Testing. How soon would these results come back? Quarantine. Do we have enough space to quarantine all of these people? Our economy is taking a serious hit. Who's going to be responsible for them when they're here? Would government roll out another stimulus package where they're going to give aid for people who are housing these people? It's a lot of questions that you have to ask. And the problem is you are asking them not in the nick of time, when time is basically on you. There's nowhere in or out. We have to realize that these people are human. And it is very inhumane for me to say that, turn a blind eye. But the problem is here, again, like I said, the responsibility, you have a responsibility to save yourself. I have that responsibility to do the same thing. I can't put myself out on a limb to help people when I'm in a bad situation right now. So what are we going to do? What the governments of the Caribbean are going to do? Everybody has their problem. But I say, St. Vincent is a big place. Why are we shipping people out when you can make provisions for them there? They have vast land mass in St. Vincent. The government can now ask for help to build temporary homes. This is one of the things that I think people are going to have to start to look at. Building temporary homes. They're in their country still. They know what to do. There are farmers are there who can start farming elsewhere. There are people who work in St. Vincent itself who can still go report to their work areas from there, but in a temporary area. So
Right.
the question is, it's not about just shipping out people because that's what you're looking at. Governments can come. I don't know where they're going to find the money because Antigua having issues, Barbados is having issues, Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis are having issues. I mean, we always look like the greener pastures because we're not saying how affected we are. But we have to look at the fact that, instead of shipping them out, creating temporary residency in St. Vincent. You have the Grenadines there. They have areas of massive land mass. You can have people go there where you can take a boat from there to go over and work, having an understanding what the situation is. But it's not just about shipping out. And I think that is what people are focusing now about taking up people coming out of St. Vincent. At this point in time, I think it's not a very good idea. It's sad, but it is the reality of the situation. It's not just the volcano erupting. You have COVID-19. That's the reality.
Right, right.
Governments have already secured X amount of vaccinations for their people. Now people are coming to your shores. You have to find vaccinations to vaccinate them. What are we going to do?
You know, Sandra, as I said earlier, it's heartbreaking.
It is.
It's
It is.
heartbreaking. But as I said, it's not something that should come at any surprise to any one of us, because we knew that at some point in time, this was going to happen. I remember when I touched base with some of my colleagues in SVG, and everybody was just like, well, okay, the volcano may erupt, yeah. And so I think they took it very lightly.
Because they felt they were not in this unsafe zone.
Right, they took it very lightly. And even those that were not in the safe zone, they took it very lightly. And so the attitude towards, just like the attitude some would have towards the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, you're in a country where people are dropping like flies and you're still out there doing your own thing, you know? But I think the attitude towards this whole situation was very poor and slow and just, oh, okay, yeah, it's going to happen, and it has happened now, and let's just live with the consequences.
And that's what I said, Yvonne. At the end of the day, people are always talking about living with the consequences. And there are people who refuse to do certain things because they feel like, yeah, just like you say, oh, whenever it comes to that point, somebody's going to come and get me anyways. And it's always that attitude. And I am saying, if the government would have put out an evacuation order earlier in December, up to and a cutoff time in February, because you didn't know what was going to happen, and tell the people of St. Vincent and St. Vincent also in the unsafe zone, when push come to shove and the volcano is erupting, then you have to find your way out, and you would have taken out the people and made provision for those. I could have understood that. And this is what I always say, because nature always gives us warning. It doesn't just happen. Earthquake happens immediately. But then we have to ask the reasons why the earth is quaking. And there must be a reason. And so we have all these scientists who know, we have all this technology who have a better understanding of when it's going to happen. And they've said it is imminent that it's going to blow. The activities wasn't such that the fact that they had history, so they could have made comparisons and recognize that this is a situation that is going to go from bad to worse. We don't know how fast it's going to happen, but we know that it's going to happen. So the time in which you have to make preparations should have been then, not now, not when it is happening. It's before it's going to happen. But now we're realizing that the government, Prime Minister is,
just going through the motion, going through the motion.
We are looking for help. The Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis was trying to contact me, but at that time, and now he's in a press conference, so we're going to see how. St. Kitts and Nevis Prime Minister, understand that you have people that you're responsible for, and we cannot take in more than we can help. And because at the end of the day, your responsibility lies with us. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Mr. Gonzalez, I understand your situation and I really sympathize. I feel bad for the people there, but I say, you have to prepare. We cannot predict, so we have to prepare. And this is one of the things that, these are old adages that we look and think that they're just sayings. But now we realize the real true meaning of these things. We cannot, it's sad, and there's some people who are from St. Vincent who have families in St. Vincent. Understand that, and people think that St. Kitts economy is thriving, but take into consideration that the areas that we heavily depend on are the hardest hit.
Right.
The government is not saying how bad it is, because everybody feel, you wake up, and I said earlier, It's a normal Friday morning in St. Kitts and Nevis. It does feel normal in comparison to what the world is going through. But we don't know because the Prime Minister is not saying how hard we've been hit. We recognize the Moses syndrome where he is getting so angry and he's getting ready to enforce the law and make sure that it's mandatory that everybody takes the vaccination. We are looking at him as a dictator. But I do understand what the Prime Minister is saying. We Christians would understand the situation with Moses when God said, do not hit the rock, and he struck it out of anger because he felt, listen, I'm trying to tell you guys this is how important it is and how ungrateful you are. And I think this is a similar situation that the Prime Minister is having where he recognizes the seriousness of the virus and he knows at the end of the day the buck stops at him. He understands the situation we have at JNF right now. He recognizes the economy and the economical issues that we're having, and I suppose because of that, and he knows that he's the person at the helm, and he recognizes the pressure is going to come on him, damn if he does and damn if he doesn't. And I think that is one of the reasons why he's using those type of narrative. People are looking at it, and in our ignorance we are making certain comments, but we are still not doing what we are supposed to do. And there's people who are going to study it like me. I want to make sure what are the long-term side effects and all of those stuff, but at the end of the day sometimes we don't have time to look and evaluate and analyze situations like that. Look at the situation in St. Vincent now. Those people, if you are not vaccinated and they say to you, you cannot go, you can't come. And it's simple as that. And that's why I said, when we take the highway and we decide that we are not going to do it, then we're supposed to be prepared for the consequences of burning in lava or magma and feeling, I mean, that's what it is. Ignorance, for me, is no excuse to the law, and we always say that. So, Mr. Prime Minister, I know you have a good heart and a big one too. And St. Vincent Prime Minister, I know that you are in dire straits. You've said before that you didn't even know how you were going to pay your people in the next 2 months. Nature have been great to you, but understand that your problem, it is your problem. The people have given you, they found the confidence in you. Then I suppose you have to prove to them now how you're competent you are. But the whole world is in a crisis. So who are going to take them? I'm so sorry for them. I wish I was a billionaire and I could have built in Booby, I would have constructed a little area where people could have. We have lots of wasteland here. I do understand. But at the end of the day, these people have to be looked after. It's not about shipping them to a country. They have to be fed. They're young children who have to grow up and have an education. People taking them have to take on that responsibility, having the understanding that we have people here who are unemployed for the past, almost a year now, over a year now.
Over a year.
So it is not as green and as rosy as we say. We are not affected. We don't have any infected cases, but we are seriously affected by COVID-19. Our economy is taking a serious hit. People are posting pictures of how the JNF has been flooded out. These are the responsibilities of the Prime Minister. These are the things that he has to take into consideration. He placed healthcare at the helm. These are the things that we have to look into. Monies are necessary, and the monies are not forthcoming. So people who are sorry for the Vincentians, like me, I am, but the question you ask, what do you do?
Right. You know, Sandra, let me just say thank you so much for having me in your program to update the people with what's happening and speak our views as to how we feel about this particular topic. Some people would have a different opinion, and that is completely fine. We all are entitled to our own opinion on how we feel about a particular matter. With this one, while we empathize, we have to understand that. Remind me of your quote, procrastination
is a thief of time.
Right.
Yeah.
So we really have to take that into consideration. We're in COVID-19. Economies all across the region, all across the world are struggling. And so those that is something that we definitely have to take into consideration. I really have to go, Sandra, because I want to prepare for voices coming up just now, because I want to bring another update with what's happening. I want to touch base with the people on SVG to hear the stories of, not to hear from
The
the
real-
Prime
the
Minister
real
or the
stories.
big speeches, but the real stories of the people
Who are affected.
on the ground. So thank you so much, Sandra, and I hope to be back again
I
in the
do.
near future.
Yeah, it was a pleasure having you, and the information was absolutely necessary. As a matter of fact, that is where I was going to go, but I like the fact that you would have given them the statistics, the reality of the situation. It's not just people are just, not you coming up with an opinion, or it's just not my view.
Right,
It is the
right.
reality of the situation. And really, go do you, and I'll continue to do me. I open the line. Some people who wants to give their views about it, they
Right.
can definitely do so. And it was a pleasure having you on the phone. I mean, everybody know that you're going to come back just now. So
Yes.
in a matter of time, you'll be here again talking to the people and letting them know what the situation is.
Right.
Thank you for
Thank you
coming.
so
Yeah,
much.
no problem. For those of you who are in tune and who are close to your telephones and really want to call in, the numbers you can call is 662-0989, 762-0989, or 466-0989. This is not a Voices program. This is your views. We want to talk about the situation that they're having in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we want to know from your point of view what you think that we as the Caribbean people can do, what the governments can do, taking into consideration that we are all affected by COVID-19, but at the end of the day, we still have that situation in St. Vincent. Who is responsible is the question one would ask. How responsible are the neighbors, the Caribbean islands? What are our responsibilities to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines? I know that there are family members who have families there, and I know that they're grieving and feeling really sad, but it's the situation, it's the reality. Let's go to the phone lines and take our first call. Caller, you're live on your views. Hello? Do we have a caller? Okay, let's take another call. Caller, you live on your views. Hello?
Morning.
Hi, good morning.
Voices.
Yeah, no, this is not Voices. This is your views.
Oh, Sandra, good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good. Sandra here talking about St. Vincent, but Sandra, I don't have words to say. All right to say, just God have mercy on them, because right now the whole world going through something with this corona, and that is why it's very important now that people take the vaccination, because you can't open your doors to people and you don't know how they stand. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Look what's happening now. And people have this thing like a joke. They're forcing people to take taxi. It's saying that you're forcing people. Look what happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
Now suppose they have to go take them in now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just join a referendum. And they ain't vaccinated. They take the vaccination. And they get it. You know what they're going to say? So it's important for people to do this thing. And next thing, hurricane season coming up. Nobody knows what going to become of this hurricane season. If you're going to bring some serious one, and then them and those now have to go mingle between people now who don't take the vaccination. You understand?
Yeah.
And people, Sandra, people making this. I listen to some people on some radio, Sandra, and they just had this whole thing like a joke. Why is that to the cow is a joke to the butcher?
It's
Right
true.
now, look what happening to people. What they going to do? How much island could take this with this COVID thing we're going around? I'm really sorry for them, and God just have mercy on them, and just let me keep them in our prayer and just pray for them, because the whole world now, everybody just trying to get everybody vaccinated, so we could just do better. So, Father God, let me just pray for them and home on them, Lord.
Thank you.
Sandra, see you.
Thank you. Thank you for your contribution. It's the world in crisis. The reality is real. Let's go to the phone lines and take another call. Caller, you live on your views. Hello? Hello? Is anybody there? Okay, I think we don't have that caller. Okay, there are no callers at this time. Well, just like the previous caller would have said, it is a situation. I know the latest thing is the Prime Minister would have made statements about making it mandatory that you take vaccinations. People are up in, everybody's talking about being a dictator and dictatorship. But again, we look at reality is people are wanting now to come to different Caribbean islands, and there are lots of people who are coming out of St. Vincent who are not vaccinated. We asked the question because we have secured a certain amount of vaccines for all people, and then people are coming in and they have to be vaccinated. We hear the refusals of the cruise ship not wanting to take anybody who is not vaccinated, and people are going to stay on the sides and say, oh, they're so inhuman. But inhumane, but at the end of the day, people have to be careful, because if people want to take the risk, because if it's a vaccination, taking the vaccination is a risk, and we would have taken that risk to do that, then we are not going to take the risk of people who are not vaccinated. Let's go to the phone lines and take another call. Caller, you're live on Your Views. Hello? Hello? Okay, I suppose we have lost that call again. I don't know what is happening, but we are not hearing anything. So those of you who are calling in, please, I don't know what the problem is, because we just had a call, so that could not have been a problem. So I don't know what the other problems are. So check your phone and make sure that you're not on mute, and that we can hear you when you're trying to call in. So I want to know what you feel, what you think its position at this point in time. Should we or should we not? Can we or can we not afford to take these people? We have the whole world, I think. It is such a pity. It's really a pity. Like I said, there are other areas in St. Vincent. It's not the whole of St. Vincent that is going to be affected by the volcano. So there are other areas. There's a safe zone, and I suppose just like Montserrat, government has to start doing some construction in that area. But you heard President Gonzalez talk about a few months ago, I think it was 2 months ago, where he said, no, recently, where he said he was not going to be in a position not even to pay salaries. So let's see what is going to happen now. Let's go to the phone lines and take this call. We would have lost that call again. I don't know what it is, but caller, you can try again. I think we would have lost you. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know which line that is posing the problem, but we have 3 lines that you can call into: 762-0989, 662-0989, and 466-0989. Let's take this call quickly and see if that is the problem. Caller, you're live on Your Views. Hello? I don't know what the problem is, but I'm getting the signal that there's a call online, and then we're taking the call, and the call is not, we don't have anybody online, okay? We don't have anybody online, so that is the unfortunate thing. Let's go back to the point where we were talking about the Prime Minister, Mr. Gonzalez. He was saying that they were in economic issues, serious problems. They have, the economy was under stress. He was in a situation where he was faced with the inability to be able to pay salaries and pensions and everything else. And for the next 2 months, he think that that's where they were. And as if COVID wasn't terrible to them, nature felt that it had to take its own course. But again, they were very much aware that this was a situation that was going to happen since December. And I've always looked at situations where people have become so reactive in opposed to being proactive. We know what volcanic eruptions are like. St. Vincent have had a history of how many years, 4 or 5 years, of realizing Sophia have erupted before and have had the ability to do so again. And so they have an understanding of what it's like. So preparation in this late stage for me, it's of no excuse. And like I said, people, I say it like I see it. It is the reality. It doesn't make sense. You sugarcoat. And it's not about calling anybody incompetent. We are talking about irresponsibility here. I just think it's very irresponsible for you to wait until now. There are children who are affected. I see old people or aged people who are trying their best to get in the dead of night. And, you know, when you were in a position to take more, you were not allowed. Now you just have to walk with a knapsack on your back, and that's all of your possessions. And for those of us who think sometimes we spend our lives trying to accumulate these things, not realizing that these things are just temporary, and at the end of the day, what is absolutely necessary is relationships. Because now, I know there are how many people that are going to be leaving from one area to another area who has absolutely nowhere to go, and who are very dependent on the government shelters. But if you listen to what the Prime Minister would have said earlier, then he didn't have that responsibility of all that 20,000 people, and now that responsibility falls squarely on his shoulder. And if he could not have managed what he had then, how in heaven world is he going to manage what is coming to him now? I know that the other Caribbean countries are willing to help, but are they able to do so? That is the sadness, and that is the pain that I feel in the pit of my stomach, knowing that people are suffering. Some people said that that is going to happen which way or the other. But suffering is another thing because you have young children there. You have old people there who have special needs, and they're moving now, and you have to take some time before they're settled. And during that time where they're not settled, could you imagine what they're going to go through? It's sad, but it is a lesson for some of us who think that because we are comfortable now, life is going to be like that all the time. Life changes, and sometimes it changes so quickly that we don't have time to make preparations for it. So we have to understand now that tomorrow was not guaranteed for any one of us. But because of the fact that we can't predict what tomorrow is going to bring, we have to start to prepare for what it might bring. And we are using a lot of old adages, but now we have a better understanding of what these adages mean. We are in crisis. The Prime Minister is frustrated, NEOC is frustrated. They are using terminologies that are upsetting some people. And for those of you who are getting upset, like, you have a choice. You have a choice whether or not you want to take the vaccination. It's the same thing. The Prime Minister has a choice. And we have to all exercise our choices. There are lots of questions that are being asked. People are wondering, and there's some people who are not even asking questions. There's some people who are guided by others, who are told by others not to do so. For those of you who do not want to take the vaccination, please don't discourage others who want to do it. And that is the problem that I have. We are people who don't want to take it for whatever reason it is, and some of them are political too. Do not stop others who want to take it. Do not give people information. I mean, you don't have all of the information. None of us offer all the information about the vaccination. We don't know. And we can't say we know because the information, like we said, information is not forthcoming. So therefore, we are ignorant to what is really happening. I've been going on YouTube, I've been searching the net, I'm trying to get all the information that I can, and it's so confusing because one set is saying one thing, another set is saying another thing. If you are not very analytical, you're totally lost. So you ask yourself the question, look at the situation you have now in St. Vincent. Your choices, are you willing to suffer the consequences? For those Christians who think that the vaccination is the mark of the beast, are you willing to wait until Christ comes to save you and suffer the consequences or the hardships of not taking the vaccination? Because you don't take a decision not realizing what the consequences are. All of the decisions that you have taken up to this point, are you willing to suffer the consequences of your decisions? If you're not willing to do so, then do what you think that is right. Because let me tell you, and I'm going to say it, God forbid that I find myself in that situation. For those of you who are not willing to comply because you just feel that it's not the right thing to do, then know that when the consequences come, you can't blame people who say they're not going to take you, because they would have done what they had to do. They would have made provisions to protect their families, and now they would have to go back and try to see whether or not they could accommodate you. Now we cannot start judging and calling people names because of the fact of how inhumane and how heartless you are. Because people, just like how you are afraid to take it, they have fear of getting it. And it's out of fear why some people take the vaccination, and it's out of that same fear why they would not take you when you have to come, or they wouldn't help. So we are in a very perplexed world, and it's going to get even worse. I've had that discussions over and over again. I've been looking in the future, and I recognize that time is changing. Not just changing, it's changing rapidly. The yesterday that we were accustomed to is long since gone. I don't think people have recognized that the world has changed. It has seriously changed. We are not going to ever be able to do what we used to do then now. So if you don't keep up with the times, then you're going to be lost. You're going to be left behind. You're going to find yourself in a situation where it's only you. Are you willing to be there and that? Or do you want to be amongst the others who who have leadership and direction, who can take you into safety and a comfort and provide for you, because that's what it is. But you have to be a part of that by doing the things that they would have done. So I'm not playing the devil's advocate here. I'm just looking at the reality of the situation. For those of you who are still waiting and having an understanding, trying to have an understanding of what the vaccination is about, realize that there's a reality that you can also find yourself in a predicament like what the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines would have found themselves in. Nature, caller calling earlier, and she said the hurricane season is around the corner. There are people whose homes might be affected again. Would you be able to go in a shelter where people are vaccinated and you are not vaccinated? And if government take the decision that you can't come, people are going to look at the government as heartless. But at the end of the day, it's the reality. And this is what I want to get across, is that the reality is there are consequences to every decision that you would have made. And so you have to weigh the pros and the cons and see which way you want to go. We can't be ignorant at this point in time. There are decisions to be made and we have to make them now. Or we have to suffer the consequences of what are the decisions or the position that we would have taken. You know, I listened to the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and it's the helplessness of the situation. And we now know that the ordinary man is just an ordinary man. So the Prime Minister is an ordinary man. He has found himself in a situation where he's powerless because he doesn't have the tools that is necessary to basically help. Right now, the country is going through some serious economic crisis. COVID-19, the health system is overwhelmed. And this is the problem. In St. Kitts and Nevis, when you have to move, because of the fact that we don't have active cases, it is easier for us to move from one area to another. And people might think twice about turning you back. But in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, when you were having issues of increased cases of COVID-19, people would be very skeptical. Countries are going to be very skeptical to take your people. So people here who have families, members in St. Vincent and Grenadines, and I feel your pain, because at the end of the day, I know you're one of those who are going to look at the government of St. Kitts and Nevis and say, I think that you're heartless, but understand that the government has a responsibility to its people. You can only help, and it's always another Ola, you can only save people if you're in a position to do so. You have to first save yourself in order to save others. So the government has to weigh the situation here and recognize that all of us are affected. We talk about opening our borders in October, but again, we are heavily dependent on tourists coming out of the UK and the US, and they are in serious problems. So we don't know if they're going to be open at that time. So although we are setting dates for us to open, remember that we're opening to who? We're opening our borders to who's going to come when other borders are being closed. And these are the realities that we have to start looking at. Everybody's waiting for the country to open. We are trading amongst ourselves, and we are asking people to be a little more creative, because that is where the world is going now. Opening up the borders, we're crying for tourists to come to our shows. Where are they coming from? Where are they going to come from? The whole world is in crisis. We are facing a pandemic. All of us, the majority, 98% of the world's population has been affected, not infected, but been affected by COVID-19. There's some small islands, I listened last night, where they have not had any cases, but there are few, I think it's about 5 or 6 small little islands, Palau and some other islands there in the Pacific, who have not been affected by COVID. But this is small, very, very small amount of people. So the rest of the world is affected. So when we are here sitting and waiting and saying, oh, tourists is going to come and this is going to happen, no, the government has to start looking at other means and ways of trying to build the economy. And one of those ways, taxes, and it's going to come. It's inevitable. Although you hear about the tax-free budget and these attacks, they're trying their best to see how they can alleviate some of our hardships. But it comes down to that. So those of you who don't have an understanding of what the problem is or what the government is facing right now. And those of you who want to use politics as a yardstick, you can go right ahead. But the reality is real. We are all affected by a virus that we have no understanding of. If you listen to the news or you start reading, which I encourage a lot of you to do so, you'd realize that the virus is mutating. There are different strains of the virus. St. Vincent has dengue, they have COVID. I mean, and these are disease or viruses that you're very much aware of, the dangers that they can present. And so it makes you even more afraid to wanting to open your doors for them. So, Mr. Prime Minister, if you have monies that you can send to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and let me tell you, those of you who are listening to me and you want to call me whatever you want to call me, it is the reality. If you have monies to send, can you do so? But please think twice and three times about opening the doors to having them come to St. Kitts and Nevis. St. Vincent is a big place. Build temporary houses there. Those are Mr. Gonzalez's responsibility. Build temporary houses there so that you can house your citizens. That is the responsibility of the government. This is when you show how interested you are in people's life in your country, how responsible you are as a prime minister. These are the challenges that separates you from the sheep from the goat. These are the challenges that make people the other world look at you. So, Mr. Gonzalez, I am not a bad person. I am saying to you that when the world closed their doors on Vincentians, you, the people, put their confidence in you at the polls, and you have to step up to the plate. You have to come up with ideas and solutions. Money is something, it's going to be hard. It's not going to be like it used to be before. You have to come up with ideas. You're accustomed of feeding your people from the ground. They're sorry, a culture. They come from a culture where they eat lots of ground provisions. They have supplied us in the Caribbean with their ground provisions. Now we recognize how much more important this is going to be to you. But housing is something that you're going to need, and I suppose that is why and how the CARICOM countries and the Caribbean islands and otherwise international can help you of helping your displaced and trying to give them that kind of comfort that is absolutely necessary. What else can I say? There's so much more to say, but I'm definitely out of time, and we definitely have to start praying for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Would prayer help? Sometimes it brings us comfort, so if that is what it brings us, then let us pray for them. But at the end of the day, the reality is every man for himself, and they always say God is for us all. So we know that whatever happened in St. Vincent, it happened in Montserrat, and it can definitely happen to us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We are taking things lightly because I don't know, there must be a guardian angel looking over us. We have always been spared from all serious natural disasters. So do not take this, do not sit down and say, oh, we have never experienced this. Take this as a lesson, because when our time comes, at least we would have seen it happen, we would have made preparations, and because of the fact that we would have been prepared, it would not be so difficult. But if we did not take this as a lesson and we haven't learned from it, then definitely you understand that their hardships would one day become ours. And so let us not just sit back and feel for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But then let's look back and look at us and see how we can help ourselves and how we can prepare and try to prevent things like this. Not nature, because we have no control over what happens, what nature gives to us, but make sure that we are prepared, that we start loving and building good relationships. Money is not always the thing, because you have the rich man, the poor man, the beggar man, and the thief. They're all running now, and they all become one thing now. They're humans trying to survive. They become survivors, and that is what we all become at one point in time. So sometimes when life is good, everybody wants to have the status quo, and people are looked at certain categories because of what they have. But when situations like this comes, we realize that we are all humans and we all want to survive. So, in the meantime, while we are not having issues, and while we can party like there's no tomorrow that we've been doing, and we've been throwing cautions to the wind, we have to start looking at now. COVID-19 is a reality. nature can deal whatever they want. We cannot predict what nature is going to give us, but we definitely can prepare for the inevitables. So let us start looking at life differently, recognizing that the life that we lived yesterday is not the same life that we're living today. One, we have to realize that COVID-19 is a reality and there are other strains of viruses that can come. And because we are not learning, and this is why we have mild cases, and then we have those chronic cases, and then we have those acute cases, and we have those that are, in the end, fatal cases. So we have to learn as we go along. Don't just look at it because we're not affected that it is not affecting us, and so it's not our problem. Let's learn from these things, because the future, basically, we don't know what the future holds. But we know what is happening now. We can see what the trend is, and we can actually have an idea of what is going to happen in the future. So let's not, although we're not able to predict what the future holds, let's try to prepare. And one of the ways that we can prepare, let's start building relationships. Let's start understanding that our neighbors are also our neighbors, and that we have to find ourselves in a position one of these days that we can help. We can start doing so now by advising. We have to start looking at what our neighbors are doing and remind them that, because I drove on a bus on the weekend, on Monday, and I listened to the taxi driver, and I was impressed. I said, how come you're not crying out? All the others are crying out. And he said to me, it's not as bad as people are saying, huh? It's because these people did not prepare. And because they were not prepared, that is why they're feeling the hardships. And he finds that a lot of these people who are affected, they're not trying to do anything to help themselves. They're heavily dependent on government, and that's why they find themselves in a situation. Not because you drive taxi. When you're not able to run tourists from overseas, then you can change your taxi into other things. The people who goes to the shop every day, and some people who needs a lift from one area to another, what happened to Uber? These are the things that you have to start making different transitions. I see that people are becoming very creative in St. Kitts. Never seen all kind of different food stalls. Everybody has become chef. But there are other things, there are other areas that you can start to look into. And you have to come up with your own ideas in order for you to succeed. The government cannot help everybody. As a matter of fact, the government needs money just like we do. And if they don't have a source of income, then they're going to find themselves in the same situation like you are in now. So let us start looking at what the future is, the trends that we're seeing, and understand what the future holds. And let us start making preparation for that. It is fearful, frightening for me from what I'm seeing. And what is more frightening is because our people are not taking heed. The Prime Minister is starting to sound like Moses, and I'm feeling so sorry for him because he's doing the same thing like Moses have done. And for those of you Christians who understand that when Moses struck the rock, he did it out of love and anger. It wasn't because that, he wanted to disobey Christ. He just felt like the people were so ungrateful that they were not doing what they were supposed to do. And I suppose the Prime Minister is taking that same path when he says that if he has to make it mandatory, he's going to do that, because I think he understands what the situation is. He's the one who carries the purse. He understands the position, the financial situation of the country. And at the end of the day, he feels helpless when people are not doing what he thinks that they're supposed to do. It is Friday, and I'm definitely out of time. They've almost making preparations, and that is one of the reasons why I decided to a little extended time, not looking at the clock. But I think that I have to start looking at it now. For those of you who are still hesitating, think about it. If you are going to do it, then do so now. For those of you who are not going to do it, then start looking for other alternative measurements. If you think you're doing alternative medicine, then start boosting your immunity, because let me tell you something, the life you save is not just your own, but there are other people who who have taken the necessary precautions. And for those of you who are ignorant, and not ignorant, but who just decide to be who you are and rebellious and not wanting to take it without the right reasons of not taking it, please stop doing that. This is not about politics, it's about people. Again, it's Friday, you want to party, you say you want to do so, you want to be able to go out and do what you want to do. So if you want to do so, remember there are protocols, wearing your mask, sanitizing, the vaccination is out there for you to take. If you don't want to take the vaccination, then you have to adhere to protocols. it's the reality of COVID-19. St. Kitts and Nevis, we are no different to the world. We might not have active cases, but if we really, our economy is taking a serious beating, and if we really want to be like where we were, the envy of the Caribbean, and not the Caribbean islands, but also the world, we have to do what we are supposed to do. My name is Sandra Artisan. It was a pleasure being here. Information is key, and don't just listen to my voice. I want you to understand what have been said, realizing that you can be in a situation like this. It's not me who's saying it. The facts are there. It's not my opinion. The reality is it's just real. The world is changing. We can't do the same thing like we did yesterday, today. So let us do what we're supposed to do. Voices is up next. Up next, I hope that you stay tuned to Win FM 98.9. It's the station where information is freely given. You don't have to pay for it, so just stay tuned and be informed. And not just take the information and sit with it, but start doing the things that you're supposed to do. Don't hesitate, they said. Vaccinate. So those of you who are still waiting on the outside, who doesn't want it, or who know for a fact they're not going to take it, go and find out from alternative medicine what you have to do. And those of you who are advised by people not to take it and you don't know where to go take the vaccination. Because at the end of the day, it's better to be safe than sorry. An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. All adages are coming back. Now we're having a better understanding of it. I'm definitely out of time. Enjoy the rest of the week. I see you next week. Same time, same place.